Every year, 805,000 Americans have a heart attack, and here is the part that nobody talks about. For the majority of those people, their last checkup was fine, their cholesterol numbers were within range, their blood pressure was being managed. They were doing exactly what their doctor told them to do. So the question is, why did it happen? Today, I am going to walk you through 5 pieces of heart advice, standard, widely given, completely mainstream heart advice that the research has now seriously called into question. Some of it has been officially revised. Some of it should have been revised years ago. I'm Dr. Michael Kent. I've spent my career in internal medicine with a focus on preventive cardiology. And I want to tell you up front what I'm about to share change the way I practice. I don't say that lightly. Stay with me because number 5 is the one almost no one is talking about, and it may be the most important of all. So let's get into it. Take a daily aspirin. It'll protect your heart. Let's start with one of the most widespread pieces of heart advice ever given. At some point, someone told you to take a low-dose aspirin every day to prevent a heart attack. And for decades, millions of people did exactly that. The intuition behind it isn't stupid. Aspirin thins the blood. Thin blood forms fewer clots. Clots cause heart attacks. It's a clean, logical chain, but biology doesn't care about our logic. 3 massive trials, Aspirin, Arrive, and Ascend, all came to the same jarring conclusion. For healthy adults with no prior heart attack, that daily aspirin wasn't a shield, it was a gamble. In one study, for every minor heart attack prevented, there was a nearly 30% increase in major internal bleeding. Think about that. You're taking a pill to save your life, but you might actually be fast-tracking a hemorrhage. The official guidance was updated in 2022. Do not start aspirin for primary prevention in adults over 60, but the medical lag is real. I still have patients coming to me who have been on it for 20 years and were never told the science moved on. They are living with yesterday's mistakes. If you are on daily aspirin and you have never had a heart attack, a stroke, or a stent, have one specific conversation with your doctor. Ask whether your current approach still reflects the best available evidence. Do not stop on your own, but ask the question. Now, let's talk about the EKG Illusion. You go in for your annual physical. The machine runs for 30 seconds. The doctor looks at the results and says, "Looks good, your heart is fine." And you walk out, feeling reassured. Here is the trap. A resting EKG only measures the electrical signals at a single moment. It's like looking at the outside of a house to see if the lights are on. It tells you the power is working, but it tells you absolutely nothing about the pipes. You can have a perfect electrical signal while your coronary arteries are 70% blocked with sludge. That's why an EKG misses half of all significant heart disease. It's a coin flip. Instead of wondering if the lights are on, we need to look at the pipes themselves. That's the CAC score, a 10-minute scan that actually sees the plaque. A large study tracking over 6,000 participants found that the CAC score reclassified the cardiovascular risk of 23% of patients who would have been cleared by standard testing. Nearly 1 in 4 people sent home with a clean bill of health were actually in a different risk category entirely. A score of 0 means your risk is very low. A score above 300 means you are at significant risk. That is a more useful piece of information than a 30-second EKG. Ask your doctor, have I ever had a CAC score? And if not, why not? Next, cut the salt. It's destroying your heart. This one is everywhere, but we've been so obsessed with the salt shaker that we completely ignored how the human cell actually works. The logic seems sound. High sodium raises blood pressure, so cut sodium. But one of the largest cardiovascular nutrition studies ever conducted, the PURE study, found that it wasn't a straight line, it was a J-curve. At very high sodium intake, risk goes up, but at very low sodium intake, below 3 g per day, risk also went up. When you aggressively restrict salt, your kidneys panic. They activate a system that raises a hormone called aldosterone, which can actually stiffen your blood vessels. We've been staring at the wrong criminal. The real disaster isn't just the sodium, it's the potassium gap. The ratio between the two is what actually drives your cardiovascular risk. We are a potassium-deficient population, yet we keep staring at the salt shaker. Instead of counting milligrams of sodium on a label, actively increase your dietary potassium. leafy greens, avocado, salmon, sweet potato, and ask your doctor about a 24-hour urine collection to measure your actual sodium to potassium ratio. Stop fighting the shaker and start fixing the deficiency the system forgot to mention. Now, you exercise regularly. Your heart is protected. This sounds like I'm about to tell you that exercise doesn't matter. That is not what I'm saying. Exercise matters enormously. What I am saying is that the way we have defined enough exercise has created a dangerous blind spot. 30 minutes of moderate cardio, 5 days a week, that is the standard guidance. But a large analysis of 22 studies found that prolonged sitting time independently predicted mortality, even in people who met those guidelines. If you sit for 8 hours and exercise for 30 minutes, your risk profile looks almost the same as someone who didn't exercise at all, unless you also break up that sitting. Then there is VO2 Max. This is a measure of how much oxygen your body can use at peak effort. An analysis of over 120,000 patients found that low VO2 max was the single strongest predictor of all-cause mortality, stronger than smoking, stronger than high blood pressure, stronger than diabetes. A 30-minute walk at a comfortable pace will not meaningfully improve your VO2 max. Your heart needs to be challenged. It needs to work at 85% of its maximum capacity to adapt and build cardiac reserve. Get your VO2 max estimated. Many wearables now do this. Find out where you fall relative to other people your age, and then add 2 sessions per week where you are genuinely working hard, not comfortable, genuinely working. Now for the conversation we fail patients on more than any other, your mental health. We have treated the heart as a pump, a mechanical object subject to the laws of plumbing. That model is dangerously incomplete. One of the most comprehensive cardiovascular studies ever conducted examined every major risk factor and found that psychosocial factors, chronic stress, depression, social isolation accounted for 32% of the risk for heart attack. 32%. That is comparable in magnitude to smoking. And yet in most cardiology appointments, that question is never asked. Untreated clinical depression doubles your cardiovascular risk, even if you have perfect cholesterol and blood pressure. This is not a metaphor. This is established physiology. Chronic stress keeps cortisol and adrenaline elevated, and arterial walls take direct damage from that sustained exposure. There is even a clinical diagnosis called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, broken heart syndrome. Acute psychological shock can cause the heart to suddenly balloon out and stop contracting properly. It carries a mortality rate of 1 to 3%. Your heart can be physically stunned by grief. That is not a figure of speech. That is a cardiology diagnosis. And yet, fewer than 10% of cardiologists routinely screen for depression or chronic stress. So, what should you actually be paying attention to? Heart rate variability, HRV, is one of the most accessible windows into how your nervous system is functioning. Most wearables track it. A consistently low HRV is a signal worth taking seriously, not in isolation, but as a pattern. Ask what your baseline is. Ask how it's trending. Ask what's pulling it down. Sleep, stress, illness, overtraining. Ask what actually brings it back up, because HRV isn't just a number, it's a reflection of adaptability, of how well your body shifts between effort and recovery, between activation and repair. And if that system is stuck in overdrive, your heart is not getting the conditions it needs to heal. This is the part we've been missing. We've been exceptional at measuring structure, arteries, cholesterol, plaque, but far less consistent at measuring state, stress, recovery, nervous system load, and both matter. They always have. The question isn't whether stress affects the heart, it's whether we're finally ready to treat that as something measurable, trackable, and worth acting on. Ask your doctor for a depression screen. Addressing stress is cardiovascular medicine. It is not separate from it. It never was. So what should a truly complete cardiovascular conversation actually sound like? Ask about the current aspirin guidance. Ask whether a CAC score might be appropriate. Ask about your sodium to potassium ratio. Ask what your VO2 max is trending toward, not just what it is today. Ask how your sleep quality is affecting your blood pressure. Ask whether your recovery, not just your workouts, is supporting your heart. Ask how often your inflammation markers are being checked and why. Ask what optimal looks like for you, not just normal. And ask your doctor, Is my mental and emotional health something we should be factoring into my heart health plan? Then go one step further. If it is, what are we actually going to do about it? None of these are radical questions. Every single one is grounded in large-scale research. They take under 2 minutes to raise. And yet, for most patients right now, they are never happening. We've separated systems that were never separate. We've treated symptoms in isolation instead of patterns in context. We've measured what's easy and ignored what's essential. You walked into this video knowing a certain version of what heart health looks like. I hope you're walking out with something broader, something more connected, something that finally reflects how the body actually works. The goal is to give you the right questions, because the right question in the right exam room at the right moment can change everything. If this changed how you think about your own heart health, share it with someone you care about. And tell me in the comments, which of these 5 has your doctor ever brought up with you? I read everyone. Next week, we are going to talk about a single marker on your blood panel that predicts cardiovascular events more accurately than LDL cholesterol and is almost never included in a routine lab order. I'll tell you what it is and exactly how to ask for it. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and I'll see you then.